Hi, my name is Jolie Gabrielle. Thank you so much for joining my channel. I really appreciate you watching me and allowing me to share my blessings and gifts, as it is truly an honor to share with you some of the things that I have learned on my journey of health and healing. I am what is known as a clairvoyant, an energy healer, and a medical intuitive. I also am a person who loves makeup and all things beauty. However, it wasn't always like this for me. I have come from a place where I have had to repair myself because of all the damage I have done in believing the negativity about myself. I was a very powerful creator of negative energy. And if I can create negative energy, I can create positive energy, which can grow and expand exponentially and hopefully get to you. Thank you so much for watching again. My last video, I had more views than I've ever had. And I just have always thought I was never cool enough to do this kind of thing. And so to actually have people view me and do my meditation, it's fantastic. So I'm just so grateful. Today, I'd like to offer you some information and some healing about how to become more self-aware. I had to start on a journey of self-awareness because I have an autoimmune condition known as vitiligo. And it's smack dab in the middle of my forehead. But if it wasn't for vitiligo, I would not be on this journey of health and healing and be able to share this with you. It actually led me on my journey to be who I am today. And for that, I am very grateful to vitiligo and the creator for allowing me this experience. I grew up in a religious community, which is beautiful in that it gives you this sense of reverence for Mother Nature, the divine, the creator. But at the same time, it can also take away your self, who you are, your personality, because I was taught I was a creator and I was meant to mimic what was in the Bible and what his son did. And that's a tall order. But at the same time, anything that I felt or believed in, I was told was unimportant and to stay away from and not do, because that was a sin. I wasn't good enough, and whatever I thought was going to be basically trash. So throughout my journey, I never felt like Jolie did not exist. She didn't matter. What she wanted, what she thought was unimportant. Squash that down, read the Bible, and do what is in there. So what does that do but build resentment? And for me, any type of organized religion, kick rocks. I don't want anything to do with you. But for those of you that are in organized religions, you can do what is called an active prayer. And that is learning about your soul architecture. Because although I don't require the guidance of a church or a religious institution any longer, or a middleman between me and God, you might want that, and that's great. But then you can superpower that energy and that connection to the divine if you know the power that's within you. And I'm so grateful that I got to learn that. But without my religious understanding and journey in a religious community, I would not be here. So for that, I am very grateful. So today I'd like to talk to you about self-awareness, because that's the first step to really becoming, well. You've got to know who you are and what makes you tick. And oftentimes, like I just described to you, everything in society is telling you, you don't matter. What you want is secondary. Now, we have a society too where we have the other half of that with people who are covert and overt narcissists who are very selfish. And we all kind of have some of that in us because we live in a capitalistic, materialistic society. So we need to stop throwing that narcissistic and narcissist mantle on everyone, because we all possess that. So it's important for us to first work here before we start pointing fingers out there. We're all empathic and we're all narcissistic. So have a seat and let's heal. Now, what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, emotions do or don't, how you feel do or don't align with your internal standards. Let me read that again. I'm sorry, my own writing is getting bad in my old age, but it goes, Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your internal standards. Okay, so first, you have to know what your internal standards are. So how do you do that? First, you sit down and you think. One of the ways to know your internal standards or to understand them is to sit down and be quiet amongst a group of people. So if you work at a job, for those of you, I'm there with you. I was also very much so an introvert. I felt like I couldn't trust anybody at my job. Therefore, I was a trash bag in these experiences. And one day my mom said to me, she goes, "Can you trust yourself, Jolie?" So she's like, if you can trust yourself, then you can trust other people. See, that's self-awareness. It's knowing that you know yourself well enough that no matter where you go or who you're around, you know how to conduct yourself. And that you don't have to worry about other people betraying you because you ain't betraying yourself. Okay, so let that sit and marinate for a minute while I give you some of the things that describe self-awareness or how to be more self-aware. Okay, of course, it takes confidence and it takes self-discovery. Now, how do you go about discovering yourself if you've been, without a personality or knowing who you are, or you're giving yourself over to other people and letting them determine who you are? That's a no-no. So, how to become more self-aware? You want to practice gratitude. That underscores everything. Sit down and think about, when you think about the things that make you smile or make you laugh, that is gratitude. One of the things we do a gratitude journal, but a lot of us here, especially in LA, we spend a lot of times in our cars or traveling from one destination to the other. This is the perfect time to do your work is in your car, especially if you're going places that you've been a gazillion times before. Now, I didn't say drop out and meditate, but a lot of times we're rote, right? We know where we're going, and before we know it, we're where we're at, and we're like, I don't even remember getting there. Do your work during that time. Pay attention. You can multitask in this way. So you start to think about things, and you laugh, and you smile, or you get like, ooh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. So in the car or traveling is a great place to do that. But these are pictures you're holding. So stop, look at that picture and say to yourself, okay, here's a picture. I feel joy at this picture. So that's a sense of gratitude. We stop and we go, oh my gosh, Mother Earth and Creator, thank you so much for this experience. Thank you for this person. Thank you. And I'd love to have more of these experiences and opportunities going forward. So you see, there we go. So now you know that this is something that you like, and you can journal and you can talk about it. Be curious about who you are. The only way to kind of know sometimes who you are is to put yourself, as I said before, in the company of others. And sometimes that can cause us anxiety. And I know for me, before I became self-aware, I was a self-sabotager in social situations. I was extremely introverted and unsocial to the point I was a weirdo. I was going to put the F word in front of that, but I'm on camera. But I was really perceived as being weird and strange, out the box, and sort of loony. And I didn't like that. I didn't like to be known as the crazy girl or the one at the job who, ooh, stay away from her. Like, you don't want to go nuclear. And if you find yourself going nuclear in these situations, you are not self-aware. So it's time to step back, shut up, be quiet, don't say nothing. Just observe when you are in the setting of other people and start talking to yourself. If I can't add value to this social situation, then I need to either shut up or I need to move myself to the side. Now, I'm using harsh language here because I want you to understand that sometimes tough love is what you have to give yourself to move into self-awareness. Yes, there's compassion and forgiveness for some of the ways that we treat ourselves, but to get up and get moving, that third chakra, which is the chakra of self-discovery, means take action. And sometimes you got to burn a fire under your bottom to get moving. So be quiet, sit amongst your peers and listen, and then do the math. How can I add value in this situation? Do I know something that can add to the conversation instead of taking from it? Now, a lot of us have been conditioned to be negative and to spot the problem in the situation. We don't need you to do that. Every one of us knows that we're fat, that we are this, we have a pimple, that our we might not know we have a booger in our nose or our zipper's down. But the other things we are very well aware of. We don't need you to come in to the conversation and say, well, you need to lose 20 pounds. You know what? So does your mama. That's how people feel. So just sit back and watch and say, okay, I don't have anything to add, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn, right? So we really want to put ourselves in a position in self-discovery where we learn about ourselves. Are we triggered by her, by what she said? Are we triggered by him? Are we triggered by what this person has on? I mean, really get into the minutia of who you are and what it is that you're trying to learn about yourself, right? And really give yourself the space to be like, I'm really judgy right here. But is that going to help you in the long run? Can you turn your judginess into something that is bringing people in instead of pushing people away? Bringing in goodness instead of pushing it away. If that's the case, then you're good. But 99.9% of the time, you being critical and judgmental of someone other than yourself is not going to bring you any good unless it is constructive. Right? But first and foremost, let's be constructive here. I need to be constructively criticizing me, not anyone else. And then when I have mastery over whatever it is I'm constructively criticizing about the other person, now I can then lay on the table what it is I think that person needs to change. Now, if they refuse to pick it up, that's on them. But my self-awareness dictates that they have free will. And although I may want to critique them, they don't have to accept that. So now we move into what does it look like to be unself-aware, right? And so unself-awareness really comes from fear, the fear of being wrong and also shame. Because we know once that solar plexus chakra is either excessive or deficient, we are most likely suffering from some form of shame. We're shamed about something. So we want to really work through some of the shame that we feel by being authentic. When we turn over that rock and we expose the things that we are ashamed about, that is when the healing begins. And that's usually where our gold is at. I'm going to put on the table one of the things I have an issue with, and that is consistency. I really am inconsistent. Like I do something and I'm like, okay, cool, that was fun. And I'm on to the next. But drilling down into something and being a master at it is what I have been challenged with on my journey. And that's why I show up here, because I want to become more self-aware, but I also want to be successful. And being self-aware means I got to show up for myself every day. So like I tell you, I'm in it with you. It's just, I want to share my gifts, but I also at the same time want to thrive. So let's do it together. All right. So the fear of being wrong is one of the reasons why we don't want to be self-aware, or we have a lack of self-awareness. And instead of seeing ourselves honestly, we're putting on a fake persona. I talked about this with the narcissism. We put on a fake persona because we want to be perceived as being good and great instead of flawed. I am so flawed. I mean, smack dab, right? I can't even, I just walk into the situation flawed. So I have nowhere but up to go from there. So when you really think about it, it's absolutely fantastic for you to just be who you are, because you have nothing but to elevate from there. You are flawed. You're perfectly imperfect. So becoming self-aware about your flaws and really loving them. And I don't mean self-deprecate. Sometimes self-deprecating is really, it can connect, but at the same time, we don't want to erode who we are or who anyone else is. Yes, we want to take ownership over our faults, but let's take ownership, fix it, and move forward and love ourselves instead of continuing to wallow in what it is that we're weak at, okay? We need to cut that out, because then it gives people license to, we give them the stick to beat us over the head with. And that's not how we're going to elevate the planet or connect with one another. And this is becoming long-winded. We're moving into 15 minutes. And so I might have to cut off the meditation and do that separately, because I really want to explain what self-awareness is, because a lot of us aren't it. I mean, even me, there's levels to this. So now the two blocks to self-awareness are usually emotional blindness and behavioral blindness. Like, people can be very inappropriate, and oftentimes it's not our place to tell them they're inappropriate. We just must move away. But sometimes in situations where you know this person, you can sit them down and you can say, look, you have a blind spot here, and I just want to help you with that. But then a person who's self-aware may not be listening to what you have to say. So my advice to you is, please don't give up on those that you love who are unself-aware. We all need people to love and support us, and we all need chances. If you're being abused or hurt, that is a whole different subject. All bets are off if people are harming you physically, emotionally, or spiritually. But if this is something that you can manage, I ask that you help your fellow man. But if not, you can always be an example unto them as to how to be. One of the ways that I was able to become self-aware was I picked people that I admired. And then I wouldn't emulate that, but I would say they had a quality of loving themselves, or really nurturing themselves. And so how does that apply to me, that self-love and that self-nurturing? What does it look like? So one of the ways that I began to nurture myself and become self-aware was in the gym. You get a lot of time to work out some of the pictures and the patterns and the stresses that you are holding in your body when you work out. And when you exercise and move, movement is a very powerful way to become self-aware. A person who's always negative lacks self-awareness, and they're Debbie Downers. So your Debbie Downers in your life, they're lacking a sense of self-awareness. Anybody who's really focusing on short-term happiness and they lacking impulse control, they're lacking self-awareness as well. Somebody who's a bad listener or just sucks at paying attention or attention to detail, you need to become a little bit more self-aware. Someone who refuses to take ownership over their behavior, or automatically when you bring something to their attention, now they're the victim, they lack self-awareness. So these are the ways in which you can notice that you have self-awareness within yourself, or someone else has self-awareness. And the ways to work with that is in your third chakra. Be vulnerable. Be, I guess how you could say, open to learning and to receiving. Be quiet and listen to that internal voice within you, because that way you will know how to proceed. Don't shy away from social situations, because you need to know who you are amongst a group of people. Do you work well one-on-one? Do you work well in groups? And if not, how can you become a person who works well in groups? All of these things are necessary. So get curious about who you are so you can develop that personality and develop yourself, so that when you like yourself and you like how you're behaving and who you are, you have more confidence, more self-love, and therefore you can spread that joy to those around you. So I'm at my max. I know that when I get to 20 minutes, you guys are like, shut the hell up. So I'm going to do that just for you. And we will go into the meditation next, how to become more self-aware. Thank you so much again for joining me. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And remember, you can heal yourself.